of adolescence. So what you learn about how to communicate from a soulful feeling level as a kid is going to come on out and demonstrate itself when you hit your teenage years. So it's a lot of work in the beginning to be a parent. It's a lot of work to spend that time and to acknowledge the feelings, and especially if you're not that good at it. Women are much better at it than men. I say men need feeling training. You need, what's it called? Remedial training in feeling awareness. Because we have it, like, so stamped out of us. I was thinking maybe this would be a place to tell a story, actually. We have story time. Is there any particular music we have for story time, Mr. J?
Well, we do have some Christmas music. That's for the break. I love story time, though.
All right, let's just, maybe we'll do more than one. So here's the story that comes to mind. It's the story of the ugly duckling. So everybody knows the story of the ugly duckling. You got a group of little ducks, and there's one weird duck, and nobody likes the weird duck, and the weird duck is out of it, because the weird duck doesn't feel like they really like him in his family, and she or he, and they just feel really alone and isolated and unloved and misunderstood. And it's a terrible situation for little ducky. One day, as the little duckies begin to mature, this one particular duck becomes to get weird. They grow different kinds of feathers, they look different, and all the other ducks are looking at it and say, that is one hell of an ugly duck. So one day, a beautiful swan flies over the pond and checks out this duck and says, I see. That's quite a little swan we got over there, man. I like that. I like what I see over there. I think I'm going to go check some of that out. And so he takes a landing in the pond, and he starts to have a little bit of chit-chat with what was seen as the ugly duckling, and they start to kind of have a good time with each other. And they hang out a little. The ugly duckling flies off with the beautiful swan. So why am I telling you that story? Because I tell that story, again, my kid outfit, I'm a therapist. I'm a clinical psychologist in California, and I have a therapy practice, and I have for many decades. And I tell that story to people who are beginning to really make aware contact with their feeling self, with their soul. Oftentimes, it comes as feelings of, I feel alone, isolated, unloved, strange, I'm different, I'm weird, all of these things. And it's very difficult for them to communicate that to other people. And so I tell them the story because I'll ask them, what was it like in your family of origin? When you grew up, how did people deal with feelings in their family? How did people express happy feelings and sad feelings, or when people were kind of nervous or angry, how did they express feelings? And invariably the answer I get is, nobody expressed feelings in my family. There was none. My father would get all pissed off, or my mother would get all pissed off. Maybe they'd hit me with a brush on my butt or something like that. But nobody ever talked about feelings. And so, what these people begin to see is that they didn't know that their feelings were even allowed. There was no name for feelings. And so the part of themselves, the soul, that is connected through feeling, got suppressed, disappeared. Now maybe, since emotion is pressure, it demands to be released. It's like water through a system or electricity through a wire. It's got to go somewhere. And if there's too much emotional pressure, like there's too much voltage or there's too much water pressure, the wire bursts on fire or the pipe blows up or the person pops. So without any real way of working and understanding that feelings exist, we would act out our behavior in different ways. Now, some people go for addiction. Addiction works, by the way. Addiction works. It helps you not have to deal with what's really going on inside you. It's too painful. So the only reason that people give up an addiction is that it's really kind of part of my friends fucking up the rest of their lives. That's it. Nobody gives up their favorite addiction because they don't like the high. That's not why we give it up. We give it up because we can't do it anymore. And the reason we got into it is because it helped us not have to deal with a lot of these feelings that we had that we didn't feel safe expressing. We might not have even known that we were having them. And there was nobody to talk to about it. And so the pressure built, and now you blow. So now if you go through a program of detox, something like that, most of the programs for rehabilitation involve a 12-step program, of which I have found one of my fields of expertise is addiction. And I have found that the 12-step program can be an incredibly saving grace for many, many people, and they feel like they owe their lives to it. And on the other end of the normal curve, there are people that can't stand going to a meeting.
Hey, Doc.
So, yeah.
We do have a couple of questions that came in. You want me to, through the chat? Do you want me to hit you up with the first one?
Sure. Let me just complete the story part.
Okay.
So the story of the ugly duckling is the child that is raised, who has feelings, that's raised in a family that doesn't acknowledge feelings, and they feel like an ugly duckling. But then when you start to meet other swans, people that understand how to express their feelings, you feel connected, and you feel known. And it allows you to break out of that idea that you're the ugly duckling that you've carried with you since your early Looney Tunes experiences. So that's why I chose that story. Sure, let's go to some questions. I'd love it.
Okay, the first question, it says, I'm a single mother. My son is 10, and I don't think he appreciates anything. When you give him a gift, he acts if he's entitled to it. My parents will shower him with a lot of presents, and I want him to express sincere gratitude for his gifts. This attitude of entitlement is driving me nuts. How do I get his attention and keep him from hurting some people who really love him?
Good question. My first question is, what do you need? Is this person online, or it's written? It's an email or text?
Yeah, it's written through the chat.
Okay. So my first question is, you say it's driving you nuts. What does that mean? What are you feeling? Do you feel embarrassed? Do you feel that you're powerless? Do you feel that you are going to be judged for the fact that your son is so demanding or so entitled? The first step is to try to get in touch with your own feelings. Because when you're in touch with your feelings and you're aware of them, you're not as likely to unconsciously act off of them. So that's my first response. My second response is, okay, how are you going to create change? What is it that you believe? Now, you see, you're looking at the behavior. What is it that is going on that your son is acting out in his behavior? What is he acting out? Does he think that he's entitled to it?
That's what.
Does he think that? Say it again.
Well, I said that's what it sounds like. And the listener types back. They're tired of feeling like like they're in the middle and being judged because of the way their child's acting, of that act of entitlement. Okay,
so I think now the respondent. I think the first question is, if this is people that love him, and you're in the middle, I would try to get out of the middle. If this is grandparents, I would like the boy to understand the effect. He's 10 years old. I'd like the boy to understand the effect that he's having on the grandparents. I would like him to know that he is causing some problems with other people because they see him this way and that way, and ask him how he feels about it. If he can learn to see the consequences of his behavior, he's old enough. He's 10 years old. He's not 5 years old. He's 10 years old. So I would like for him to understand the effect his behavior has on others and how it makes them feel toward him. I think the easiest way and the best way to do that is first get out of it yourself and let your son have his own relationships and inform him that there are some people that might be okay with it because they love him so much they can't give him enough. And there are other people that may have some feelings about how he's treating them. And I wonder how he would deal with that.
I know one thing that...
Now, that's just how he would deal with that. How would the child deal with that? Now, some people would say, well, that's too much for him to handle. I think the way to raise kids is to teach them the consequences for their behavior. I don't believe that punishment works. I don't think punishment works. When you punish somebody for doing something or not doing something, it's very different than acknowledging them when they do something. It's a positive reaction. So, at the same time, there's a great book by a guy named Alfie Cohen called Punished by Reward. By simply giving people rewards for their action, that also doesn't necessarily accomplish what you're looking for. You want to praise your child for the effort and the way that they relate to people, and let them be aware of the consequences of how they do that. When they have the awareness of the consequence, then they can start to make decisions. This reminds me of a situation I had with my son, who was, 5 years old, 6 years old. And at his school, all the kids were using profanity. Shit and fuck and dick and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And they thought it was hilarious. And so I talked with him about it. And I said to him, there are some people that are okay with words like that, because they already knew that it was like not okay for some people. I said, some people okay. What about Ricardo? Is he okay with that? And my son said, yeah, he's okay. What about Marina? Is she okay? Yeah, she's okay. I said, what about Martin's dad? I don't think so. What about Susie's dad? I don't think so. What's going to happen if you use those words when you're around Susie? And he said, her mommy's not going to let her play with me. I said, that's right. I said, what about Grandma? I said, oh, no, can't do that around Grandma. So the challenge I presented to him was one that we all use all the time. There are places that we can speak our piece. This brings up an issue for me about this guy on the duck hunting reality show. There are places that we can speak our piece among friends, and you don't have to hold back. It's okay. Everybody's cool with it. And then there are places like Grandma's house where you can't use profanity without having a problem. She's going to have a problem with you. Now, as a kid, you have to figure it out. I told him, this is your job. We'll talk about it. But what's going to happen if you use profanity in situations that aren't cool, parents are not going to want to play with you, and you have to realize that. And that's how we taught him. And he was really good at it. He didn't make too many mistakes. There were some situations, because kids use profanity among themselves all the time. But the real challenge is to figure out when is it okay and when is it not cool. I would think that this 10-year-old boy, could be taught in the same way. There are times that he could do it, and there are times that if he does it, people are going to have negative experiences. You have to communicate to them. Maybe have him act it out in theater, or ask him how he would feel. I don't believe punishment works. And I want to talk about that